I stood outside the boardroom, rain streaking the glass, my heart pounding. My stepbrother Ethan's smug grin burned into me as he blocked the door. "Shareholders only," he sneered, his voice dripping with triumph. He thought he'd won, thought he could erase my father's legacy and cast me aside like I was nothing. But I wasn't nothing. Deep inside, I carried Dad's fire, his belief in me. They underestimated me, locked me out, but I held a secret that would shatter their plans. This wasn't just a meeting. It was the moment I'd fight for everything Dad built. In my father's office, I clutched his photo. His eyes steady like he was still here. Richard Carter built Carter Technologies from a dream, a $200 million empire protecting millions. He taught me business wasn't just numbers, it was people, purpose, vision. Now, Ethan and his mother thought they could steal it, sell it to vultures who'd tear it apart. But I'd found something they didn't know about, a hidden truth that changed everything. This was my chance to honor Dad, to prove I was his daughter not just in name, but in strength, ready to reclaim what was mine. This is my story, how I faced betrayal, uncovered my father's secret plan, and took back the company he poured his soul into. It's a story of standing tall when the world tries to push you down, of fighting for what's right against impossible odds. If you've ever been underestimated, sidelined, or told you don't belong, this is for you. I'm Rachel Carter, and I turned my stepfamily's schemes into my triumph. You'll see how I walked into that boardroom, turned the tables, and saved Dad's legacy. Stick with me to witness every twist, every moment of vengeance and victory. Hit that like button if you're ready for a tale of resilience. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss what's next in this journey. Share your own story in the comments. When did you stand up against the odds? Let's inspire each other. This isn't just about revenge. It's about proving your worth, no matter who tries to silence you. Join me, and let's dive into how I showed them who really owned the company. My father, Richard Carter, was a man of relentless vision. With just $10,000 borrowed from a college friend, he founded Carter Technologies in a cramped garage, driven by a belief that financial security shouldn't be a privilege but a right. That was the 90s, when tech was raw and uncertain, but Dad saw possibilities where others saw risk. He poured sleepless nights into coding, pitching, and building a team that shared his dream. By the time I was born, his startup had become a $200 million leader in financial security systems, protecting businesses from fraud and cyber threats across the globe. His software didn't just lock doors, it gave people peace of mind, from small shop owners to Fortune 500 CEOs. Dad's genius wasn't just technical. It was human. He knew a company's soul lies in its people, not its profits. He'd walk the office floor, remembering every employee's name, asking about their kids, their dreams. That's why they stayed loyal, why they believed in him. I grew up hearing stories of his early struggles, missed rent payments, skeptical investors, but also his triumphs, like the day he signed his first major client, tears in his eyes, knowing he'd made it. Carter Technologies wasn't just a business. It was Dad's legacy, a testament to what grit and heart could achieve. He taught me that leadership isn't about power, it's about responsibility, about building something that outlives you. Even as his company grew, he stayed grounded, always reminding me that success means nothing if it doesn't serve others. But that legacy, that empire he built from nothing, was about to face a threat he couldn't have foreseen. Not from competitors or market crashes, but from within his own family. The man who'd trusted so fiercely in people was blindsided by those closest to him. And I, his daughter, would have to fight to protect what he'd created, to keep his vision alive against those who saw it as nothing more than a paycheck to cash in. Growing up, I was my father's shadow, trailing him to Carter Technologies on weekends, my small hands clutching crayons while he explained balance sheets. I was 8 when cancer took my mother, leaving a void that never quite filled. Dad and I became everything to each other, a team against the world. He'd rearrange board meetings to cheer at my soccer games, his voice the loudest in the crowd. At night, I'd cook us simple dinners, spaghetti mostly, and we'd talk about life, business, dreams. He made the complex feel simple, turning profit margins into stories of people's livelihoods. "Rachel," he'd say, his eyes bright, "a company is only as strong as the trust it builds." Those moments shaped me, planting seeds of purpose I didn't fully understand then. I'd sit on his lap in his office, surrounded by humming computers, as he broke down how encryption protected someone's life savings. He never talked down to me. He believed I could grasp anything. That faith fueled me, made me want to be like him. Someone who solved problems, who mattered. Losing Mom was my first lesson in grief, but Dad taught me resilience. We'd visit her grave and he'd say, "She's still with us in every choice we make to keep going." Those years, just the two of us, were my foundation. I learned to see challenges as puzzles, not roadblocks. Dad's pride in me wasn't just fatherly, it was professional. He saw in me a spark he nurtured, a future leader for the company he'd built. But that future wasn't guaranteed. Life was about to shift, bringing new voices into our quiet home, voices that didn't share our bond or our vision. The lessons Dad taught me, trust, purpose, perseverance, would soon be tested in ways neither of us could have imagined. I didn't know then that the strength he'd instilled would be my weapon against a betrayal that threatened to unravel everything he'd worked for, everything we'd dreamed of together. When I was 12, my world changed again. Dad met Victoria Harper at a charity gala, her elegance and charm filling the room. He was smitten, convinced she could bring light back into our lives. 6 months later they married, and our home welcomed her children, Ethan, 15, and Chloe, 10. I wanted to embrace them, to build the family Dad envisioned, but it wasn't that simple. Victoria's warmth felt polished, never quite reaching her eyes when she looked at me. Ethan was worse. His resentment was palpable, a cold wall between us. He'd scoff when Dad praised my math skills, muttering I was just the favorite. Chloe was different, sometimes slipping me shy smiles or joining me for board games, but her loyalty always swung back to her mother and brother. Our house, once a haven of quiet routines, buzzed with unfamiliar energy. Victoria redecorated, replacing Mom's paintings with abstract art that felt sterile. Family dinners were tense, with Ethan dominating conversations and Victoria steering topics away from Carter Technologies. I overheard her once whispering to a friend, "Rachel's not a real Carter, she'll never fit." Those words cut deep, planting doubts I tried to bury. Dad, ever the optimist, believed time would knit us together. He'd pull me aside saying, "Give them a chance, Rachel. Family takes work." I tried for him. I invited Chloe to bake cookies, offered Ethan help with homework, but their walls stayed up. Victoria's distance grew into subtle slights, forgetting my school events, praising her kids while ignoring me. Dad didn't see it, or maybe he didn't want to. He was happy, and I couldn't bear to dim that. But the cracks were forming, a fault line that would later shatter our fragile unity. The company, Dad's pride, remained my refuge, where I could still feel his trust in me. Yet even there, I sensed a storm brewing, one that would test whether I could protect his legacy from a family that saw me as an outsider in my own home. Dad's legacy wasn't just Carter Technologies. It was a philosophy, a way of living with purpose. He'd sit me down after long workdays, swirling his scotch, and talk about what made a company endure. "Rachel," he'd say, "it's not about stock prices or corner offices. It's about the people who depend on you. Employees, clients, communities." That vision shaped everything. The software that shielded businesses, the profit-sharing he dreamed of, the culture where ideas mattered more than titles. He saw the same fire in me, encouraging my knack for numbers and creative solutions. "You've got the Carter instinct," he'd grin, seeing answers where others see walls. I carried that pride like a badge, vowing to honor him by earning my place in his world. Even as Victoria and her kids changed our home, the company was my anchor, a place where Dad's belief in me never wavered. He'd share his dreams for its future, global expansion, new technologies, always with me in the picture. Someday, he'd muse, this will be in good hands. I thought he meant mine, but I never asked. That was my mistake. His lessons went beyond business. He taught me integrity, never cut corners even when it's easier. He warned of vultures, those who'd exploit trust for gain, a warning I'd later wish I'd heeded sooner. Carter Technologies was more than a company. It was Dad's heart, poured into something that touched lives. Protecting it became my unspoken promise, even as I sensed threats closing in. Victoria's disinterest in the business, Ethan's hostility, Chloe's wavering loyalty. They were warning signs, but I was too young, too eager for family to see them clearly. Dad's legacy was a weight I was ready to carry, but I didn't yet know how heavy it would become. The battle to save it would demand everything. My courage, my cunning, my faith in myself. Because what he built wasn't just a company. It was a trust, passed to me not through a will, but through a lifetime of lessons, preparing me for the fight I never saw coming. I was never handed anything. My father, Richard Carter, built Carter Technologies from a garage into a $200 million empire, and he expected me to earn my place in it. I threw myself into that challenge. At Wharton, I studied finance and product development, staying up late, fueled by coffee and Dad's stories of his early startup days. My professors called me relentless. I called it proving I was his daughter. Summers weren't for vacations. They were for interning at Carter Technologies. I started at the bottom, filing reports in the data room, debugging code with engineers, sitting in on marketing pitches. I wanted to understand every gear in Dad's machine, not just coast on his name. He'd watch me, his eyes gleaming with pride, but he never went easy on me. Rachel, he'd say, if you want to lead, you need to know the foundation. By 27, I'd climbed to creative director, leading a team that designed cutting-edge security software. My innovations, user-friendly interfaces, smarter encryption, weren't just ideas. They were proof I belonged. Dad would pull me aside after meetings, grinning. You've got the Carter instinct, kid. You see solutions others miss. I thrived on that, pouring my heart into every project, every late night, every presentation. The company was more than a job. It was where I felt closest to him, where our shared vision lived. Employees respected me, not because I was Richard Carter's daughter, but because I showed up, worked harder, and delivered. I thought I was building toward the future Dad always hinted at, where I'd steer the company he loved. He'd talk about it over dinner, swirling his scotch, his voice warm with certainty. Someday, Rachel, this will be in good hands. I assumed he meant mine. I should have asked what he meant. That oversight would haunt me. While I was climbing, learning, proving myself, a storm was brewing. Victoria, my stepmother, and her kids, Ethan and Chloe, were watching, waiting. They didn't see Carter Technologies as a legacy. They saw it as a prize. I was too focused on my work, too trusting in Dad's vision, to notice the cracks forming. My place in the company felt secure, earned through sweat and results. But security is an illusion when those closest to you are plotting to take it all away. I was about to learn that the hardest battles aren't fought in boardrooms. They're fought in your own family. One morning, everything shattered. Dad was in a board meeting, vibrant at 62, no hint of illness. Then, a heart attack stole him before the ambulance could arrive. I was in my office reviewing a prototype when James Sullivan, our CFO, broke the news. The world stopped. My father, my mentor, my rock, was gone. Grief swallowed me whole. I moved through the funeral like a ghost, clutching memories of his laugh, his lessons, his belief in me. I kept hearing his voice. Rachel, you're stronger than you know. But I didn't feel strong, I felt broken. A week later, the will reading hit like a second death. In the attorney's sterile office, I sat numb, expecting Dad's faith in me to shine through. Instead, I was blindsided. Victoria, my stepmother, inherited 40% of Carter Technologies shares. Ethan, her son, got 15%. Chloe, her daughter, took 10%. Me. I got Dad's house, his personal belongings, a trust fund for financial security, and just 5% of the company. Shares he'd gifted me at 5%. After all our late-night talks, all his promises about the future, I was left with a fraction of his legacy. I sat there, stunned, as the attorney's voice droned on. Had I misunderstood him? Had I failed him somehow, lost his trust without realizing it? The questions gnawed at me, twisting my grief into self-doubt. Victoria's composed smile, Ethan's smug glance, Chloe's averted eyes. They all stung. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but I was too raw, too lost. Dad's company, his life's work, was slipping through my fingers, handed to a stepfamily who'd never cared about its mission. I thought of his voicemail, found days after his death, cryptic and fleeting. "Rachel, I've protected what matters most. Trust me." I dismissed it as grief-fueled hope, a desperate grasp at meaning. Now, it echoed like a lifeline I couldn't yet reach. I decided to stay at Carter Technologies, clinging to the only piece of Dad I had left. I'd honor him through my work, my ideas, my refusal to quit. But the ground was shifting under me. Victoria, Ethan, and Chloe weren't just taking shares, they were taking control. And I was about to learn how far they'd go to erase me from the company Dad and I had dreamed of leading together. Victoria wasted no time. As the new chairwoman, she stepped into Dad's role with a polished smile, but no passion for the business. She'd never shown interest before, yet now she controlled the board. Ethan, languishing in middle management for years, was suddenly chief operating officer, his mediocre track record ignored. Chloe, whose only contribution had been social media posts, became director of communications. I stayed creative director, but my world shrank. Meetings were rescheduled without notice. My emails went unanswered. My projects sidelined. It was subtle at first. Victoria's cool explanation about streamlining decisions, Ethan's dismissive sighs in meetings. But soon it was blatant. I was cut from the product development committee I'd chaired for years. "Too many cooks," Victoria said, her voice dripping with false regret. I heard Dad's advice in my head. "Pick your battles, Rachel." So I swallowed my anger, focusing on my team, my work. But the isolation deepened. My budget was slashed by 30%, while Ethan's department got raises. Chloe accidentally sent company-wide emails mocking my designs, claiming it was a mistake. My keycard stopped working in executive areas. Even longtime colleagues grew distant, sensing the power shift. Only James Sullivan, Dad's best friend and CFO, and Karen Mitchell, our marketing VP, stayed loyal. They warned me of closed-door meetings, whispered about a mysterious transition Victoria and Ethan were planning. I felt like a stranger in the company I'd grown up in, a ghost haunting my own legacy. Every day felt like a fight to hold on, to prove I still belonged. I kept working, kept innovating, but the walls were closing in. Victoria's leadership wasn't about building, it was about control. Ethan's promotions weren't about merit, they were about power. And Chloe's loyalty wasn't to the company, it was to her family's agenda. I was losing ground, losing Dad's dream, and I didn't know how to stop it. But I wasn't ready to give up. Somewhere deep down, I knew Dad hadn't left me defenseless. I just hadn't found his plan yet. The attacks weren't just internal, they went public. Ethan leaked a memo to the press, painting me as unqualified to lead, a young woman riding her father's coattails. Headlines screamed, "Carter Tech in chaos," and "Family feud threatens $200 million empire." Reporters called, digging for dirt, twisting my years of hard work into a narrative of failure. I'd walk into meetings and feel eyes on me, judging, questioning. It wasn't just my stepfamily sidelining me. It was the world watching, doubting. Social media buzzed with speculation, some calling me a spoiled heiress, others pitying me as a victim of corporate games. I'd scroll through comments late at night, each one a jab at my confidence. "She's out of her depth," one read. "Richard's daughter can't save his company," said another. I wanted to fight back, to scream that I'd earned my place, that I'd built systems saving millions for our clients. But I stayed silent, remembering Dad's advice. Don't react, respond strategically. Still, the pressure was suffocating. My stepfamily's campaign was working. Employees whispered, clients hesitated, and board members grew cagey. I felt Dad slipping further away, his legacy tarnished by lies. Victoria's polished interviews didn't help, her vague promises of stability masking her plans. Ethan's smug confidence in meetings, Chloe's careless social media jabs. They were dismantling my reputation piece by piece. I'd drive home, Dad's house now mine, and sit in his empty office, wondering if I'd failed him. That voicemail haunted me. I've protected what matters most. What did he mean? Was I missing something? The doubt was crushing, but it also lit a fire. I wasn't just fighting for myself, I was fighting for Dad, for the people who believed in Carter Technologies, for the vision we'd shared. The press could doubt me, the world could judge me, but I wouldn't let my stepfamily rewrite my story. I'd find a way to fight back, to prove I was more than their narrative. Somewhere in Dad's lessons, in his trust, there was an answer waiting. I just had to keep searching, keep believing before they sold his dream to the highest bidder. The air in Carter Technologies had grown heavy, thick with secrets I couldn't yet name. I was already a ghost in my own company, sidelined by Victoria, Ethan, and Chloe, my stepfamily, who'd claimed my father's legacy as their own. But one late afternoon, everything shifted. I was leaving a meeting, another one where my ideas were ignored, when I overheard Ethan's voice, low and smug, outside the executive lounge. "Once the Sterling deal closes," he said, "Rachel's irrelevant. The board won't care about her tantrums." My heart stopped. Sterling Enterprises. I'd heard that name before, whispered in boardrooms as a warning. They weren't builders. They were vultures, a corporate raider notorious for buying companies, stripping their assets, and leaving empty shells behind. I pressed myself against the wall, my breath shallow, as Victoria's cool voice joined in. "Keep her out of the loop," she said. "She's got no leverage. We'll have the votes by next week." I slipped away, my mind racing. They were planning to sell Carter Technologies, my father's life's work, to a predator that would gut it for profit. Every employee, every innovation, every dream Dad poured into this $200 million empire would be torn apart. I thought of the people who trusted him. Engineers with decades of loyalty, clients who relied on our security systems, families whose livelihoods depended on us. This wasn't just a betrayal of me. It was a betrayal of everything Dad stood for. I sat in my office, staring at his photo on my desk, his steady eyes seeming to urge me forward. I couldn't let this happen, but I needed proof, something to expose their plan before it was too late. My stepfamily had locked me out of key decisions, cut my access to critical systems, but I wasn't powerless. Not yet. I remembered Dad's warning about corporate vultures, his voice grave. "They prey on weakness, Rachel. Never let them see you break." I wasn't broken, not anymore. Grief had dulled me, but this betrayal lit a fire. I started piecing together what I knew. Sterling's reputation was public knowledge. Articles detailed their trail of gutted companies, laid-off workers, vanished pensions. If Ethan and Victoria were negotiating with them, there'd be a paper trail. Emails, contracts, board proposals. But I was no longer invited to those meetings, no longer copied on those emails. My 5% stake gave me no real power, or so they thought. I reached out to James Sullivan, our CFO and Dad's oldest friend. Over coffee, his face grim, he confirmed my fears. "They're pushing a merger," he said. "Sterling's offering a premium, but it's a death sentence for the company." He'd seen the preliminary terms: asset sales, layoffs, dissolution of our R&D. I asked why the board would agree. "Money," he said simply. "And Victoria's charm." Felt sick. Ethan's ambition, Victoria's ruthlessness. They were selling Dad's soul for a payout. I thought of Chloe, my stepsister, who'd rebuffed my pleas for support. "This is business," she'd said, her voice cold. I'd hoped she'd see reason, but she was loyal to her mother's plan. I was alone, or nearly so. Karen Mitchell, our VP of Marketing, was my other ally. She'd noticed odd budget shifts, funds redirected to consulting fees that screamed payoffs. Together we vowed to dig deeper. I couldn't confront Ethan and Victoria without evidence. They'd spin it, paint me as paranoid. I needed something undeniable, something to turn the board against them. Dad's voicemail echoed in my mind. "I've protected what matters most." It felt like a clue, a thread I hadn't pulled. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew where to start. Dad's office, the heart of his legacy. If there was an answer, it was there. The company I'd grown up in, the one I'd fought to earn my place in, was slipping away. But I wasn't just Richard Carter's daughter. I was his fighter. And I was ready to uncover the truth, no matter how deep they'd buried it. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. Sterling Enterprises was circling, and my stepfamily was paving the way for a deal that would destroy Carter Technologies. With James Sullivan and Karen Mitchell by my side, I began to unravel their plan. James, our CFO, had access to financials that hinted at the merger's scope. Over late-night calls, he shared what he'd found. Sterling's offer included a $250 million payout, but their terms were brutal. They'd sell our patents, liquidate our data centers, and lay off 60% of our staff. The board was being swayed by promises of personal bonuses, greased by Victoria's assurances that this was progress. Karen, our VP of Marketing, dug into Sterling's history. She pulled reports, news clippings, even lawsuits from former employees of companies they'd gutted. One story stuck with me. A family-owned tech firm, much like ours, reduced to nothing after Sterling's takeover. Its founder had died broken-hearted, his legacy erased. I couldn't let that happen to Dad's company. But we needed more than rumors and projections. We needed hard evidence to stop the vote. Karen noticed suspicious activity in our marketing budget. Funds funneled to a consultancy tied to Sterling. "It's a bribe," she said, her voice tight. "They're buying loyalty." James agreed to trace the payments, but we had to move quietly. Victoria and Ethan were watching, their grip tightening. I felt the walls of Carter Technologies closing in, every step a risk. I spent hours in my desk, poring over what little I could access, but I was locked out of the merger files. My keycard no longer opened executive doors. My login blocked from sensitive drives. It was deliberate, a cage built to keep me out. One night, alone and desperate, I drove to Dad's house. My house now. His office was untouched, a shrine to his life's work. I sat at his desk, running my hands over his books, his pens, searching for something, anything. That's when I found it. Behind a framed photo of us, tucked into a hidden panel, was an envelope with my name in Dad's handwriting. My hand shook as I opened it. "Rachel," it read, "you are the true heir. I've protected Carter Technologies for you. The blind trust holds 51% of voting shares, activated only when you're ready. David Rosenberg, my attorney, has the details. Trust yourself, as I always have." I read it again, tears blurring the words. A blind trust, 51%. Dad hadn't abandoned me. He'd armed me. He'd known the risks, maybe even sensed Victoria's ambition. The trust was his failsafe, his way of ensuring I could save his legacy. I called David Rosenberg immediately, my voice trembling. He confirmed it. The trust was real, legally airtight, waiting for me to claim. But I needed to act fast. The board meeting was days away. The letter changed everything, but it wasn't enough. I needed to prove Sterling's intentions, expose Victoria and Ethan's side deals. James and Karen were ready to help, but we were running out of time. I thought of Dad's lessons. Never fight with emotion, fight with facts. The trust gave me power, but facts would give me victory. I needed access to the merger documents, locked away in systems I couldn't reach. That's when I turned to Zachary Miller, our IT specialist. He'd been with Dad since the early days, a quiet genius who'd always respected my work. If anyone could get me into those files, it was him. The letter was my spark, but the fight was just beginning. Victoria and Ethan thought they'd outplayed me, but they didn't know I held the key to their undoing. The clock was ticking, with Dad's letter in hand, revealing a blind trust that gave me 51% control. I had a weapon, but no battlefield yet. Victoria and Ethan were racing to seal the Sterling Enterprises deal, a merger that would dismantle Carter Technologies. I needed evidence, irrefutable proof of their betrayal, to turn the board against them. The merger documents, locked in the company's secure servers, held the truth. Sterling's plan, Victoria's payoffs, Ethan's backroom promises. But my access was cut off, my credentials blocked by Ethan's orders. I was an outsider in my own company, fighting to save it from the inside. That's when I turned to Zachary Miller, our IT specialist. Zach was a holdover from Dad's startup days, a brilliant coder who'd helped build our first security systems. He'd always been kind, slipping me tips on software glitches, respecting my role as creative director. I found him in the server room surrounded by humming machines and laid it all out. The Sterling deal, the trust, my stepfamily's plot. I need those merger files, I told him, my voice steady despite my fear. Can you get me in? Zach hesitated, his eyes flicking to the door. If they catch us, it's over, he said. But if your dad trusted you, that's enough for me. We had a plan, but it was risky. The servers were monitored, and Ethan had tightened security after noticing James's questions about the budget. Zach explained we'd need to bypass the admin lockout without triggering alerts. He'd create a temporary backdoor, using an old maintenance account Dad had set up years ago. Your dad always kept a spare key, Zach said, a faint smile breaking through. We worked after hours, the office dark except for the glow of monitors. My heart pounded as Zach typed, lines of code scrolling fast. I stood watch, jumping at every creak, half expecting Ethan to burst in. Once we heard footsteps, Ethan pacing the hall on a late call. I held my breath, praying he'd pass. He did, but it was a warning. We were exposed. Finally, Zach cracked it. The files opened, a flood of data revealing Sterling's blueprint. It was worse than I'd feared. They'd sell our core tech to a competitor, shut down 3 offices, and pocket millions in consulting fees for Victoria and Ethan. There were emails, too. Victoria promising board members bonuses, Ethan assuring Sterling he'd handle me. It was a betrayal written in black and white, a plan to erase Dad's legacy for profit. I felt rage but also clarity. This was the evidence I needed. Zach copied everything to a secure drive, his fingers shaking. "This'll bury them," he said. "But you've got to move fast." I nodded, thinking of the board meeting now 2 days away. I'd need David Rosenberg to present the trust, James to verify the financial damage, Karen to rally board allies. But there was one last piece. I tried Chloe again, hoping to break through. I met her at a cafe, pleading, "You know what Sterling will do. Help me save the company." She looked away, her voice cold. Mom knows what's best. You're out of your depth, Rachel. It hurt, but it hardened me. Chloe had chosen her side. I was on my own, but not alone. Zach, James, Karen, they believed in me, in Dad's vision. The files were my sword, the trust my shield. Victoria and Ethan thought they'd locked me out, silenced me. They didn't know I'd found Dad's spare key, not just to the servers, but to the company itself. The boardroom was waiting, and I was ready to walk through that door. Not as a victim, but as the heir Dad had prepared me to be. The board meeting loomed like a storm on the horizon. The moment I'd either save my father's legacy or lose it forever. Victoria and Ethan were pushing to sell Carter Technologies to Sterling Enterprises, a corporate predator that would gut everything Dad had built. But I held two weapons. A blind trust giving me 51% control and a drive full of damning evidence exposing their betrayal. I wasn't the grieving daughter they'd dismissed. I was Richard Carter's heir, ready to fight. The night before, I met David Rosenberg, Dad's attorney, in his quiet office, the city lights flickering outside. David, with his steady gaze and meticulous notes, walked me through the trust. "It's ironclad," he said, sliding over the documents. "Your father ensured you'd have the power when the time came." I traced Dad's signature, my chest tight with gratitude and resolve. He'd known somehow that I'd face this battle. We strategized every detail. David would present the trust to the board. I'd reveal Sterling's true intentions, and James Sullivan, our CFO, would back me with financial data. Karen Mitchell, our VP of Marketing, had rallied 2 board members to our side, but the rest were swayed by Victoria's promises of profit. The vote would be close, and timing was everything. I barely slept, haunted by Dad's voicemail. "I've protected what matters most." It was my mantra now, fueling me through doubt. Morning came sharp and cold. I dressed deliberately. Black blazer, crisp white shirt, armor for the fight ahead. At Carter Technologies, the office buzzed with tension, whispers of the merger swirling. I clutched the USB drive in my pocket, its weight grounding me. David met me in the lobby, his briefcase heavy with legal papers. "You ready?" he asked. I nodded, my heart pounding but my resolve unshaken. We headed to the boardroom, the glass walls looming like a fortress. As we approached, Ethan stood at the door, arms crossed, his smirk oozing confidence. He'd been waiting, savoring this moment. "Shareholders only, Rachel," he said, his voice laced with mockery. "You're not on the list." I felt the sting of his words, the same dismissal I'd faced for months. He thought he'd won, thought he could lock me out of my own company. My stepbrother's arrogance was almost laughable, but I didn't flinch. I stepped closer, meeting his gaze. "You sure about that, Ethan?" asked, my voice calm, almost dangerous. His smirk faltered just for a second as I pulled out my phone and tapped it lightly. "Maybe you should check with David." David stepped forward, his presence commanding. "As legal counsel, I'm here to ensure compliance," he said, handing Ethan a copy of the trust's cover page. Ethan's eyes scanned it, his face tightening. "This is a stunt," he snapped, but his voice wavered. I smiled, not out of joy but power. "Open the door, Ethan," I said, "or I'll make sure everyone knows why you're stalling." He hesitated, his hand hovering over the handle. I saw it then, fear buried under his bravado. He'd underestimated me, just like Victoria, just like Chloe. They thought grief had weakened me, that I'd crumble under their schemes. But Dad had taught me better. "Pick your battles," he'd said, "and when you fight, win." This was my battle and I was ready. Ethan stepped aside, his jaw clenched, and the door swung open. The boardroom waited, a battlefield of glass and steel, where I'd face my stepfamily and claim what was mine. I thought of Dad, his lessons, his trust in me. This wasn't just about control. It was about honoring the man who'd built this company, who'd believed I could carry it forward. I took a breath, straightened my shoulders, and walked toward my destiny, David at my side, the weight of Dad's legacy driving every step. I stepped into the boardroom, the air thick with anticipation. The long table was lined with board members, their faces a mix of curiosity and impatience. Victoria sat at the head, her posture regal, her smile practiced. Ethan slunk to her side, his eyes burning into me. Chloe, seated nearby, looked down, avoiding my gaze. The room felt like a trap, but I was no longer prey. I was here to reclaim what was mine. David Rosenberg followed, his briefcase snapping open with a sound that cut through the murmurs. I stood tall, my voice steady as I spoke. Good morning, everyone. I'm here to discuss the Sterling Enterprises merger, and to set the record straight about who controls Carter Technologies. A ripple of confusion passed through the room. Victoria's smile froze, her fingers tightening on her pen. Ethan leaned forward, his voice sharp. This is out of order, Rachel. You have no standing here. I met his glare, unflinching. That's where you're wrong. David stepped forward, his voice calm but authoritative. As Richard Carter's attorney, I'm presenting the Richard Carter Trust, which holds 51% of voting shares in Carter Technologies, assigned to Rachel Carter. He began distributing folders, each one containing the trust's legal documents. Gasps punctuated the silence as board members opened them, their eyes scanning the pages. Victoria's composure cracked, her voice rising. This is absurd. These documents are fabricated. Her accusation hung in the air, desperate. I felt a surge of anger, but I kept my tone even. Fabricated. Then explain why David Rosenberg, Dad's trusted attorney for 20 years, is standing here. Explain why the trust is notarized, filed, and legally binding. David nodded, addressing the board. The trust was established 3 years ago, with clear instructions to activate when Rachel was ready to lead. That time is now. The board members exchanged glances, some flipping through the papers, others staring at Victoria, whose face had drained of color. Ethan jumped in, his voice loud. She's manipulating you. She's been irrelevant for months. I turned to him, my words deliberate. Irrelevant. I've been fighting to save this company while you and Victoria plotted to sell it to Sterling, a company that'll fire our people and sell our tech for scraps. The room tensed, the weight of my words landing. I pulled the USB drive from my pocket, holding it up. I have evidence of Sterling's plans and your side deals. Shall we review it? Victoria tried to interrupt, her voice shrill. This is a distraction. The merger is in the company's best interest. But her charm was failing. James Sullivan, our CFO, spoke up, his voice steady. I've seen the financials, Victoria. Sterling's plan cuts 60% of our workforce and liquidates our assets. It's a death sentence. Karen Mitchell, our VP of Marketing, added, I've tracked payments to board members, consulting fees tied to Sterling. This isn't progress. It's corruption. The board stirred, doubt creeping into their faces. One member, a longtime ally of Victoria's, shifted uncomfortably. We need to see this evidence, he said. I nodded at David, who connected my drive to the boardroom system. Screenshots flashed on the screen. Emails from Ethan promising Sterling a smooth transition, contracts outlining asset sales, bank records of Victoria's payoffs. The room grew deathly quiet, the truth undeniable. Victoria's hands trembled, her voice a whisper. This is a misunderstanding. But no one was listening to her anymore. Ethan's face was red, his fists clenched, but he had no defense. Chloe sat frozen, her eyes wide, as if seeing her mother and brother's betrayal for the first time. I felt no joy, only resolve. This wasn't about revenge. It was about protecting Dad's company, his people, his vision. The board was mine now, not because I demanded it, but because I'd earned it with truth. I looked at each face, my voice firm. Carter Technologies isn't for sale. Not to Sterling, not to anyone. My father built this company to protect, not to plunder. I'm here to honor that. The silence that followed was heavy, charged with the weight of a legacy reclaimed. The boardroom was a pressure cooker, the air crackling with the fallout of my revelations. Victoria's polished facade had crumbled, Ethan's bravado reduced to a scowl, and the board members sat stunned, their folders of trust documents open before them. My evidence, Sterling's predatory plan, my stepfamily's secret deals, had shifted the room's power. But I had one final card to play, one that would seal my victory. I took a breath, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. Before we vote on the merger, there's something you need to see. My father left more than a trust. He left his voice. David Rosenberg nodded, pulling a small drive from his briefcase. Richard Carter recorded this message 2 years ago, he said, plugging it into the system. The screen flickered, and there he was, Dad alive, sitting at his desk, his eyes warm but serious. My throat tightened, grief and pride colliding. His voice filled the room, deep and unwavering. If you're watching this, it means my company, my life's work, is at a crossroads. I built Carter Technologies to protect people, to innovate, to endure. But I always knew it might face threats, not just from outside but from within. That's why I created the Richard Carter Trust, giving 51% of voting shares to my daughter Rachel. Gasps rippled through the board. Victoria's face was ashen, her hands gripping the table. Dad continued, his words deliberate. Rachel has the heart, the mind, the vision to lead. She's earned it, not just as my daughter, but as the one who carries my values. I trust her to protect what we've built, no matter the odds. He leaned forward, his gaze piercing as if speaking to me. Rachel, if you're here, you've found your strength. Don't let anyone take it from you. The video ended, and silence fell, heavy with reverence. I blinked back tears, feeling Dad's presence in every word. He'd seen this coming, prepared me for it, believed in me even when I doubted myself. I looked at the board, my voice soft but firm. My father chose me to steward his legacy. Sterling Enterprises will destroy everything he built. Our people, our technology, our purpose. I'm asking you to honor his vision and vote against this merger. The room stirred, board members exchanging glances. One, a gray-haired executive who'd known Dad for decades, spoke first. I've seen Sterling's history. Rachel's right. This deal's a disaster. Another, initially swayed by Victoria, nodded. Those emails, we can't ignore that. I'm with Rachel. Victoria tried one last stand, her voice desperate. You're being manipulated. This trust is a trick. But James Sullivan cut her off, his tone sharp. The financials don't lie, Victoria. Sterling's plan bankrupts us long term. Rachel's evidence is solid. Karen Mitchell added. We've already lost Richard. Let's not lose his company too. The tide had turned. The board chair, a neutral figure, called for a vote. All in favor of approving the Sterling merger. Victoria raised her hand, Ethan followed, but only one other member joined them. 3 votes. All opposed. Hands shot up, 8 in total, a clear majority. The merger was dead. A wave of relief washed over me, but it wasn't joy. It was responsibility. I'd saved Dad's company, but the work was just beginning. Ethan slammed his fist on the table, his face livid. You'll regret this, Rachel, he hissed. I met his eyes, unafraid. No, Ethan. You will. Victoria stood, her voice icy. This isn't over. She stormed out, Ethan trailing, Chloe hesitating before following. The board members approached me, some offering nods, others apologies. Your father would be proud, one said. I nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. I thought of Dad, his video, his trust in me. This victory wasn't just mine, it was his. I'd kept my promise to protect Carter Technologies, to fight for the people who believed in it. But I knew the battle wasn't over. Victoria and Ethan wouldn't stop, and I'd need every ounce of strength to lead. For now, though, I'd won. I was no longer the excluded daughter. I was the leader Dad had raised me to be. The boardroom victory was mine, but it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. I'd stopped Victoria and Ethan's plan to sell Carter Technologies to Sterling Enterprises, reclaimed control with Dad's trust, and proved I was his heir. But saving the company was one thing. Rebuilding it was another. Carter Technologies, my father's $200 million legacy, was battered. Morale was low, projects stalled, and trust in leadership fractured. I stood in Dad's old office, now mine, looking at his photo. His steady eyes urging me forward. I heard his voice in my head. A company's soul is its people, Rachel. Fight for them. I knew I had to start there. I wasn't ready to be CEO. Not yet. The weight of that role, Dad's role, felt too heavy after months of grief and betrayal. So I turned to James Sullivan, our CFO and Dad's closest friend. James had backed me in the boardroom. His loyalty to Dad unwavering. Over coffee, I laid out my plan. James, I said, I need you to be interim CEO. You know this company's heart, its numbers, its people. I trust you to steady the ship while I rebuild. He hesitated, his eyes searching mine. This is your company, Rachel. You sure? He nodded. I'll lead when I'm ready. For now, we do this together. He agreed and we got to work. My first priority was the Phoenix platform, a security system I'd championed as creative director. It was Dad's dream. User-friendly, unbreakable encryption to protect small businesses. Victoria had shelved it, calling it unprofitable. I saw it as our future. I rallied my team, engineers who'd been demoralized by budget cuts. This is our chance, I told them. Phoenix isn't just tech, it's trust, the kind Dad built this company on. They lit up, ideas flowing, code flying. I worked alongside them. Late nights fueled by pizza and purpose. We redesigned interfaces, streamlined features, and tested relentlessly. 6 months later, Phoenix launched at a tech conference, and the response was electric. Clients signed on, revenue jumped 22%, and the press called it a game changer. But numbers weren't my only focus. I walked the office floors just like Dad, learning names, hearing stories. I met Sarah, a junior developer who reminded me of myself. Hungry, underestimated. I mentored her, sharing Dad's lessons. See problems as puzzles, not walls. Her first project became a Phoenix feature, and her pride mirrored mine. I also faced new threats. A competitor tried to poach our top talent, offering huge salaries. I couldn't match their cash, but I could offer something better. Ownership. I introduced equity bonuses, tying our team's future to the company's success. It worked. Retention hit 94%. Employees started smiling again. The office humming with energy. I rebuilt trust with clients, too, meeting them personally, promising stability. Carter Technologies is back, I told them. Stronger than ever. They believed me, renewing contracts, spreading the word. The board, once skeptical, began to see me not as a grieving daughter, but a leader. James was my rock, steering finances while I focused on vision. Karen Mitchell, our VP of Marketing, amplified Phoenix's launch, her campaigns winning industry awards. Together, we were healing the company, stitch by stitch. I thought of Dad's Scotch-soaked talks about purpose. Build something that lasts, Rachel. That's what I was doing. Not for revenge, but for him, for the people who'd believed in us. Yet challenges lingered. Victoria and Ethan were gone, but Chloe's bitterness lingered, and the industry watched, waiting for me to falter. I wasn't perfect. Doubt crept in during quiet moments. But I kept going, driven by Dad's faith, by the team I was building, by the legacy I was determined to carry forward. Phoenix wasn't just a product. It was proof we could rise again. Victory in the boardroom didn't silence my stepfamily's venom. Chloe, my stepsister, lashed out where she knew it hurt. Publicly. She took to social media, her posts sharp and calculated, painting me as a power-hungry opportunist who'd stolen the company from rightful leaders. Rachel Carter's no visionary, one tweet read. Just a daughter riding her dad's name. The press ate it up, headlines recycling her lies. Carter Tech's new leader faces family backlash. Each post was a dagger, twisting the narrative I'd fought to reclaim. I'd scroll through her attacks at night, my stomach churning. Part of me wanted to fire back, to expose her role in Victoria's schemes. But Dad's voice stopped me. Don't react, Rachel, respond strategically. I stayed silent, focusing on the company, but the noise was relentless. Employees whispered, clients asked questions, and doubt crept into the boardroom. I knew I had to act. Chloe's shares, 10%, gave her influence a platform to destabilize us. Victoria's 40% was an even bigger threat, a shadow over every decision. I met with David Rosenberg, our attorney, to explore options. Can we buy them out? Yes. David nodded, but warned it'd be costly. Victoria won't sell cheap, and Chloe's bitter, she'll fight. I didn't care. I needed them gone to secure Dad's legacy. James Sullivan crunched the numbers, finding cash reserves from Phoenix's success. We offered Victoria $80 million for her shares, a premium she couldn't refuse. She signed, her signature cold, her eyes promising retribution. You'll fail without me, she said. I didn't respond. Her words were empty. Chloe was harder. She demanded $25 million for her 10%, dragging negotiations to hurt me. I paid it, every dollar a step toward freedom. The buyouts drained our reserves, but they gave me control. 96% of Carter Technologies. Chloe's posts didn't stop, but they lost their bite. Without shares, she was just noise, not a threat. The press shifted focus to Phoenix's success, and employees rallied behind me, their loyalty a shield against her attacks. I thought of Dad, his lessons about resilience. Family can hurt you most, but you choose who stays in your circle. I'd chosen, Victoria and Chloe were out, and I was building a new family, one bound by trust, not blood. The buyouts weren't just financial. They were my declaration. This company was mine, and I'd fight to keep it whole. A year after the boardroom showdown, I stood at a crossroads. Carter Technologies was thriving. Phoenix had transformed our market share, revenue was soaring, and our team was stronger than ever. James Sullivan had guided us as interim CEO. His steady hand a gift, but the company needed a permanent leader, someone to carry Dad's vision into the future. Deep down, I knew it was me. Doubt lingered. Could I fill Dad's shoes? But his voice, his trust, pushed me forward. You're stronger than you know, Rachel. I met with the board, my voice steady. I'm ready to be CEO, I said. This is my father's company, and I'll lead it the way he taught me, with purpose, not profit, at its heart. They voted unanimously, their trust hard-earned. Taking the helm felt like coming home. As CEO, I set out to honor Dad beyond the company's walls. I launched the Richard Carter Innovation Grant, a $10 million fund to support young entrepreneurs, especially women and minorities, who faced the same barriers Dad had in his early days. At the launch event, I stood on stage, Sarah, my mentee, at my side. My father believed in solving problems for people, I said. This grant is his legacy, helping dreamers build what matters. The crowd roared, and Sarah squeezed my hand, her eyes shining. The grant wasn't just funding, it was hope, a way to keep Dad's spirit alive. Leading wasn't easy. I faced a new challenge when a rival tried to poach our developers again. I doubled down on equity bonuses and added flexible work policies, keeping our talent loyal. We expanded Phoenix globally, opening offices in London and Singapore, fulfilling Dad's dream of worldwide impact. Revenue grew, but so did our culture. Employees shared ideas freely, knowing they'd be heard. I wasn't perfect. Imposter syndrome crept in during quiet moments. But I leaned on James, now my advisor, and Karen, whose marketing genius kept us ahead. I visited Dad's grave often, pouring his favorite scotch on the earth, whispering updates. "We're doing it, Dad." Becoming CEO wasn't about power, it was about responsibility, about building something that lasted. The grant, the growth, the team, they were proof I'd honored Dad's trust. Victoria and Ethan were shadows now, their threats empty. Chloe's attacks faded, her influence gone. I'd rebuilt Carter Technologies not for revenge, but for love, for Dad, for his people, for the future he'd seen in me. The battle for Carter Technologies was over, but the scars lingered. I'd reclaimed my father's company, outmaneuvered Victoria and Ethan, and rebuilt what they tried to destroy. Yet victory didn't erase the pain of betrayal, the weight of family torn apart. I stood in my office, Dad's photo on my desk, his eyes steady as ever. I'd honored his legacy, but I wondered, could I heal what was broken beyond the company? Chloe, my stepsister, haunted me. Her social media attacks had cut deep, her loyalty to Victoria blinding her to the truth. But I saw glimpses of doubt in her eyes during that final board meeting, a crack in her armor. Dad's voice echoed, "Family takes work, Rachel." I decided to try. I reached out, asking Chloe to meet at a quiet cafe, the same one where I'd once pleaded for her help. She arrived, guarded, her arms crossed. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice sharp. I took a breath, keeping my tone soft. "I don't want to fight anymore, Chloe. I want to understand." Her eyes flickered, surprised. I told her about Dad's trust, his video, his belief in me. Not to gloat, but to show her what I'd fought for. "This wasn't about power," I said. "It was about saving what he built for all of us." She looked away, her fingers tracing the cup's rim. "Mom said you were stealing it," she whispered. I nodded, acknowledging her pain. Victoria saw it as a prize. I saw it as Dad's heart. "You don't have to choose sides anymore." Silence hung between us, heavy but not hostile. Finally she spoke, her voice small. "I didn't know about Sterling's real plan. I'm sorry. It wasn't everything, but it was a start." I offered her a role in our foundation, a chance to honor Dad her way. She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no. It was enough for now. Victoria was harder. Her betrayal ran deeper, her ambition colder. I sent her a letter, not out of weakness, but strength. "I'm open to peace," I wrote, "but not at the cost of Dad's legacy." She didn't respond, and I didn't expect her to. Ethan remained silent, his threats empty. I'd let them go, not for them but for me. Reflecting on my journey, I saw how far I'd come. Losing Dad shattered me, his will blindsided me, and my stepfamily's schemes nearly broke me. But each blow forged me. I thought of Wharton, my sleepless nights earning my place. Of Phoenix, the platform I revived to prove Dad's vision. Of the boardroom, where I stood tall against lies. Grief had been my shadow, but it taught me resilience. Doubt had been my enemy, but it sharpened my resolve. I wasn't just Richard Carter's daughter. I was Rachel, a leader who'd faced betrayal and rose stronger. I thought of Dad's lessons, his scotch-soaked talks about purpose. Build something that lasts, not for you but for others. I'd done that, not for revenge, but for love, for him, for our people, for the future he saw in me. Chloe's apology, however small, reminded me that healing was possible, even if it took time. I stood at Dad's grave, pouring his favorite scotch on the earth, whispering, "I'm still fighting, Dad." The company was thriving, but my journey wasn't about winning. It was about growing, about carrying his light forward, even through the darkest days. As CEO, I set my sights beyond survival. Carter Technologies was ready to soar. Phoenix's success had rebuilt our foundation, with 22% revenue growth and a loyal team. Now I dreamed bigger, just like Dad. We expanded globally, opening offices in Tokyo and Berlin, bringing our security tech to new markets. Clients worldwide trusted us, from startups to governments, proving Dad's vision was timeless. I led with his philosophy, people over profit. I promoted Sarah, my mentee, to lead our innovation lab, her ideas sparking new features. Karen Mitchell's marketing campaigns went viral, and James Sullivan, now my advisor, kept our finances strong. But growth wasn't just numbers, it was culture. I called a company-wide meeting, our first since the Sterling fight. Standing before hundreds of employees, I felt Dad's presence. "This company is yours as much as mine," I said. "You're not just workers, you're builders of a legacy." I shared our global plans, introduced profit sharing, and invited ideas from every level. Hands shot up, voices eager, from engineers to interns. That day, we weren't just a company. We were a family united by purpose. I thought of Dad's words. "A company's soul is its people." I'd fought for them, and they were fighting with me, carrying Carter Technologies into a future brighter than I'd dared imagine. This is my story, how I faced betrayal, reclaimed my father's company, and rebuilt it stronger. It's not just about boardrooms or revenge. It's about standing up when you're pushed down, finding strength in loss, and building something that matters. If you've ever been doubted, sidelined, or told you're not enough, know this. You are enough. Your fight, your purpose, your legacy, they're worth defending. I'm Rachel Carter, and I turn pain into power, not for me but for the people I love, the values I hold, the future I believe in. Now it's your turn. What's your fight? What legacy will you build? Share your story in the comments. I want to hear how you've risen against the odds. If this moved you, hit that like button to spread the word. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next chapter of resilience and triumph. Let's inspire each other, because no one can silence your voice when you choose to stand tall. Carter Technologies isn't just a company. It's proof that you can rebuild, reimagine, and reclaim what's yours. Join me, and let's keep fighting for what matters most.